Hello, I'm Tony Kaye. Welcome to Property Point. I'm joined as usual by Nerida Conisbee, Chief Economist of REA Group. Welcome, Nerida.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. Now, I wanted to talk about what's happening with interest rates. There's been quite a lot of commentary. Even the Prime Minister has come out fairly recently saying that he's expecting interest rates to go up. We already know that they have gone up. The banks have been increasing, particularly for investment loans. So what are some of those pressures that you're seeing on the market at the moment?
Oh, there's no doubt that interest rates are on the way up. I mean, even if the Reserve Bank is under pressure to keep them stable or even cut, the banks are now going to continue to increase them. So they're under a lot of pressure. I mean, if you have a look at things like the banking tax that will be passed on to consumers, given that the majority of what banks are lending is to residential customers, it's an easy win for them to start to increase rates there. But also their cost of wholesale funds is going up. So a lot of the money that they lend to Australian home buyers comes from the US, and with US rates rising, that's going to be passed on as well. So those two factors. Also, APRA's been onto them for years now to stop lending so much. So that's another consideration that we need to take into account.
So in terms of rates rising, as I said, they already are rising in some instances for interest-only loans mainly. What sort of forecasts have you got in terms of listings for property as a result of that?
Yeah, so I mean, listings is interesting. It's harder for us to judge what happens because you would normally expect in a market that greater demand would see greater number of listings, but that certainly hasn't been the case over the last year or so. So we've certainly seen record levels of demand on our site, record numbers of people wanting to buy, but at the same time, listing volumes have been pretty flat. So there's lots of reasons for that. I mean, over the long term, people are holding more property and they're holding more property for longer. And the reason being is that people have done very well out of property in Australia. And if you'd bought an apartment in, say, Sydney 10 years ago, you'd be doing remarkably well from a yield perspective based on the price you originally bought that property. So that's part of it. But the main reason we think we've seen this more short-term drop in listings is that people are fearful of upgrading and they're worried that if they sell and buy, there's a time lag and the market will have run away from them. So increasing interest rates, it'll slow the market. It's already starting to slow the market, and as a result, we do expect better listing volumes as a result.
The other thing that we've just had the census results come out in terms of migration levels. What have you seen there in terms of demand as a result of population growth?
Yeah, so the population growth is strongest in New South Wales and Victoria, and that's really putting a lot of pressure on housing. So particularly in New South Wales, where we've seen long-term undersupply, and now we're seeing jobs growth, we're seeing strong economic growth, we're particularly seeing strong white-collar employment growth. So that's why we're starting to see these big jumps in prices, particularly in inner city areas and particularly for apartment prices. Melbourne's a bit different. I mean, Melbourne is doing very well from a percentage growth perspective, but we are coming from a much lower base from where we are in Sydney. So Melbourne has built a lot, continues to build a lot, apartments, houses, everything just seems to work better in Melbourne from a housing supply perspective. So we do expect prices to continue to increase in Melbourne because of those population pressures, but it won't be quite as acute as what we're seeing, or the problem won't be as acute as we're seeing in Sydney.
What's surprising is in the outer suburbs there's quite strong growth, and obviously a lot of newer Australians and younger people who are going into their first homes, they're picking those areas because they're more affordable. Do you expect that growth to continue out?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's up to planning and what planning controls the government puts in. I mean, the Victorian government has announced new suburbs, for example, so they're quite keen for the urban boundary to grow, it would seem. I think what it comes down to is that we still have a very strong affinity for the single family home on a big block. If we have a look at the types of houses that people are most engaged with on our site, they tend to be big 4-bedroom homes, 2-bath, 2-car garage on a big block at a pretty affordable price. So overwhelmingly we still want to live in those houses, but we're starting to change, and I think that's important. That a lot of the affordability issues, a lot of the amenity issues, people are having to move inner. to be able to get them, but they're having to go to an apartment instead of a house if they want to live in those inner suburbs.
Well, we'll keep an eye on those trends as we catch up again next time. Thanks
Great.
for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Nerida. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again on Property Point next time.
InvestSMART now offers a life insurance comparison service. All you need to do is answer a few questions, select your cover, and compare the results. This quick and easy service provides quotes with up to 9 of Australia's leading insurance providers. You can compare the benefits of each insurer with our easy-to-use comparison feature. We have a team of qualified specialists who can answer any questions you have and make the application process as smooth as possible. Just visit our website or give us a call.